What's up guys, it's your boy Elevate bringing back another Scrim tip video. Today I'm going to be talking about defaults. Now I've seen a lot of people's, through my shop that I have, VOD reviews of Step 1 teams, some of the higher Step 1 teams. I've seen a VOD of Foe, I've seen a VOD of Mazer, they've sent me a couple VODs, and I've seen a whole bunch of different teams in Players League, sorry if I said Step 1. And I don't think a lot of them know what a default high ground push is, and a lot of them are extremely unorganized on their high ground push, but they work because they're all super individual skill is pretty high, and they're good at communicating, so they end up doing the job. But they could really do it a lot cleaner and a lot better. It's one thing a lot of lower level teams are pretty bad at, and I think it's one of the things that really distincts a pro team from a lower level team. So a default in other games is basically a strat that you can always run, you can always fall back on, and it's kind of the basis of all strats. Now you can tweak this, you can change it, you can make a whole new strat out of it. It's kind of just the base level of what you need to know in Scrim. So this is basically a default height take, and I'm going to explain it for squads and duos. And so I'll start out with squads. The most important thing is you have two people sploding and two people pushing for height. Now, the two people sploding, if you don't have a lot of splodes, it's fine. One person can splode, one person can spam. If you only have like clingers or something, that's fine. But the most important thing is that the two people sploding are 100% sure that they can bring down the structure. Usually how my team used to run this before I left / got kicked is basically we would have two people, we would try to get info, we'd be in a turtle, and once we were 100% sure that the two people were taking correct angles to get height and could do that without getting shot out, and we're 100% certain that they could go for height, and the two people were 100% certain that they could shoot this down, because if you're not 100% and it goes wrong, think about how screwed you are for the rest of the game. All of a sudden you've used a ton of utility, you have zero to little to no nades left, you've used a lot of ammo, you're in a terrible position, you might be edge of Storm might be coming in, you're probably going to get focused by the high ground team, another team's probably going to focus you, you're kind of in a mosh pit at this point. It could go terribly wrong if you run this incorrectly. So you have to be 100% certain that you have an angle that you can compete / get height from, and you have to be 100% certain that you can take down height before you run this. So once the two sploders say, okay, they're together, hey, look at this angle, you go over there, you can shoot this out, attack it from here, look at where it's connected. Once you have that information, then you go over to the people who are pushing high ground. Usually your higher individually skilled players usually push for high ground, and they're 100% certain they'll be okay, they can push for height. Then you call it, and you go 3, 2, 1, let's go. Or usually we have the sploders shoot it down for a little bit, like give it like 5 seconds, but you don't want to wait too long because they can connect it pretty easily. And worst case scenario, even if it's about to fall and they go down to connect it, it's a 2v2 for height, and you have the surprise and you have the angle, and you're probably gonna get it. And so once you get height, or you're competing for height, you have the people at the bottom have two options right now. They can either shoot it out if there's not a lot of other teams and you're 100%, you can shoot out super fast, pick up your teammates, Storm isn't coming, you're 100% safe, you can shoot it out, and or you can, if you get height, you can connect it, and or you can just go up for height with them, usually like start working up, maybe like aggro, spam someone who's at the bottom, make sure he can't help his team, then go for height or something like that. But the most important thing here is the two people at the bottom can be going for kills and being a little more aggressive as they go up, still be safe. You do not want to get down here. I'm talking pop shots. As they drop down, the bottom people can usually get a couple cheeky shots on them, and if they're low, maybe aggro a bit, but you don't want to commit to it because you don't want to get edited on. If you die, it's going to be really rough for your team, especially with the mats that you just wasted. You need your 4 people mats, and then if you have height, they need to go up and connect it. The two people who are pushing for height need to be building for height. They're not building for kills. They're not aggroing. They're not trying to kill anyone who's going with them. They're building for height. Once they have height secured, they need to their number one thing is to be aggroing the people lower them and getting info to the people below you, whether to start connecting and building up to you or not, because their job is at the bottom is to make sure it doesn't fall. So a lot of great teams run these extremely well. I would show you VODs, but we haven't played squads in a really long time, and it's kind of hard to get any VODs at the moment with my current situation. So now we're just going to mainly talk about duos. And duos, a default setup is a little different in the main thing that there's two people, and you have to choose what you hold. When you're pushing height, you gotta really, it's a lot more important to use what utility you have correctly. So for example, if you have a grenade launcher, you can't be right underneath someone when you're trying to go for height. Like in squads, you can't like turtle and then shoot it out usually, because there's a ton of other turtle teams. If you're having a grenade launcher, you probably need to have it assisted with maybe a bounce pad or something where you can grenade launcher from a distance while a teammate pushes in. And the hardest thing about duos is how easily you can get shut out. It's a lot of solo play for height and a lot of support play from the other players. So I would recommend that, for me, it's more important that both of your duo players, you can't have one support role and one height role. You guys kind of have to be very good at both, because a lot of situational things are going to happen, and it's a lot more important that both of you guys can build for height than in squads. You can have one guy who's kind of rough at building who can kind of just sit back and play support role really well. And although that's a talent, and I'm not saying that's bad, but like it's a lot different in duos. You kind of both have to be together. You have to make a lot of right decisions. In duos, I would recommend a rocket launcher over a grenade launcher, because the fact that you can get up and close in duos with it. I would recommend clingers are very good in duos due to the fact of how you can throw them from underneath, you can throw them from the side, you can throw them up, down. They're just really versatile compared to nades. You can't really throw them up, you'll just kind of nade yourself. And C4 of course is good. I would recommend C4 if there's kill incentive or anything like that. C4 is very OP on turtle teams. You can shoot C4 in. A lot of different things can be used with your utility, but the most important thing is knowing when to use it. My recommended default for duos is sitting middle ground and layering out. This is win incentive, of course, I'm talking about scrims here. I would recommend layering middle ground while one person has hopefully rocket launcher, clingers, or C4. This is if you have one of those three things. You can layer middle ground, and then when the high ground team starts tarping, one player starts double ramping while the other player nades or explodes them down, and that way your high ground, you have one person on high ground, and then you go and connect it and make sure you're not aggroed. The other default for duos is if you are pushing height and you have a launch pad, I would recommend if you have a launch pad to rather pick up a grenade launcher over a rocket launcher if you get the launch pad earlier in your drop and you have that option, because if you can grenade launch high ground and then launch pad on top of it, that's very, very effective, and that's won me a few games when I play with my duo partner and stuff like that. The most important thing in duos is to know that you are going to, one, waste a lot more mats, so you have to go later in the circles compared to squads. You can probably go in the first moving circle for height, or second moving is around the best time, but in duos you have to go later. You have to go like second to last or third to last, and if you go up too early it could really punish you, especially with these new zones. It's really important that height can be reset, and going into the zone just to bounce pad up is good also. So I really hoped this helped with what defaults are, how to take height. I know this will help a lot of you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Next episode is going to be on the how to do a scrim and stuff like that, so hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys later.